Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing one of the strongest Pokemon for the Ultra Holiday Cup, and it also just so happens to be one of the rarest, and that is a fully maxed out level 50 Spiritomb. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Schmeedy PvP, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, Spiritomb XLs are extremely difficult to get, as it has never ever been in the wild, but through the course of a lot of research tasks and a lot of walking, Schmeedy has one fully maxed out, and he absolutely terrorizes the Ultra League Holiday Cup with it. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches. And in game number 1, he's going to be leading Shadow Annihilape into Shadow Dusknoir, an absolutely terrible lead. He's going to stay in with the Annihilape, throw a few counters, and then safe switch into Spiritomb. Opponent sends out Kyurem, and this is not a strong response to a Spiritomb. Spiritomb is able to inflict massive super effective damage with the Rock Tomb, and in matchups where Rock Tomb isn't super effective, it now has faster pacing courtesy of the 50 energy Shadow Ball. Shield comes up from the Kyurem. Kyurem going to go for another Glaciate, but post debuff, this is not going to be enough to take the knockout. Spiritomb hangs on, making it to another Rock Tomb, and even though this was a pretty terrible lead matchup, Spiritomb is able to generate a shield advantage out of the mid game to hopefully set up Annihilape or Oranguru to sweep this game. In comes Annihilape, no shielding as Kyurem fires off the Glaciate, and in comes Oranguru. In the back, opponent has the Dunsparce. What a cool pick. And the Dunsparce is running Body Slam. Body Slam, not going to do a ton of damage. Oranguru farming up and looking to ramp up its damage with the Trailblaze. Oranguru hitting a little bit of a pose there, flexing on this Dunsparce, as Dunsparce will return fire, trying to get this Oranguru as low as possible. Another Body Slam is going to land. Oranguru, unfortunately not able to get off the charge stack, as the Dunsparce is now going to be getting this Oranguru very low. Quick switch into the Annihilape, answered with the Dusknoir. Can Dusknoir hang on? This is a super effective Shadow Rage Fist. Rage Fist lands. Dusknoir does survive. Dusknoir gets the farm down, and it's all up to Oranguru. Oranguru firing off this Trailblaze, trying to get the farm down if at all possible. Opponent, they still have the Kyurem. In comes the Dunsparce. The Dunsparce getting KO'd. This is going to be a race to the finish. Kyurem still alive in the back. No, Kyurem survives, and unfortunately that game will end in defeat. Great lead in the next match. Shadow Annihilape into the Dunsparce. Opponent safe switches into Hisuian Zoroark. Look at the spice. You absolutely love to see it. Unfortunately, Zoroark is getting ruthlessly deleted by Sucker Punches from Spiritomb. Spiritomb exits very healthy and with so much energy to burn. Back in comes the Dunsparce. The Dunsparce will take some pretty significant damage from the Rock Tomb. Dunsparce, its drill run is just not really going to do a lot of damage here. It's debuffed, which means Spiritomb will be able to very comfortably survive. Spiritomb going for a massive overfarm, saving the energy and pivoting into Oranguru. In the back, there's a purified Toucannon, and Oranguru is just going to commit to the fast move pressure and go for the Trailblaze. Trailblaze shielded up by the Toucannon. Toucannon, oh no, the confusion goes through as Toucannon will fire off energy. Toucannon goes for the return. Man, these battles, I was unprepared. Return Toucannon, devastating damage, does get same type attack bonus, that does set up a farm down for the Toucannon, and in comes Spiritomb. Spiritomb will take the knockout with the Rock Tomb, as unfortunately, that's the end of Toucannon. Back in comes the Dunsparce, and the opponent resigns the match. Shadow Annihilape into Belly Bolt in the next match. This is a pretty neutral matchup. Belly Bolt is going to look to boost up its defense, while Annihilape can boost up its attack or do what it does here, which is just full send the Close Combat. Close Combat is going to connect devastating damage onto the Belly Bolt, and now Annihilape, it's double debuff now due to the Close Combat, so it will put up the shield. In comes Spiritomb, resetting the debuff and getting a full farm down. Opponent sends out Aurorus, and if this is their answer to a Spiritomb, then my goodness, they do not have an answer. Spiritomb launches the Rock Tomb, that connects big damage onto the Aurorus. Aurorus, are they going to be full sending the Meteor Beam here? The shield comes up, it is going to be the Meteor Beam. And Aurorus is going to make a last-second Weather Ball that forces Spiritomb to CMP tie here. Spiritomb's Rock Tomb is going to take the knockout. All they have left in the back is going to be a Skeleturge that has to try and 1v3. And unfortunately for the Skeleturge, it's never going to be able to 1v3. It's going to get permanently debuffed by the Rock Tomb. Skeleturge has to throw the Torch Song immediately. It's taking way too much damage from these Sucker Punches. But now, in comes Annihilape. Annihilape just going to be used as a damage sponge here, and Oranguru will be able to close out this game. Torch Song lands, taking the knockout, but in comes Oranguru, and a double boosted Torch Song, that's just simply not a problem for XL Oranguru. Well, actually stand corrected, this is only a single boosted Torch Song due to the fact that there was the Rock Tomb B buff applied, starting them off at -1. Oranguru Brutal Swing is going to be shielded. Oranguru gets the Brutal Swing number 2, and that's going to be all she wrote. Skeleturge tried to be the hero, pull off the 1v3 sweep, but unfortunately, it just was not enough. Shadow Annihilate into Shadow Golurk, a disastrous lead in the next match. A safe switch into Oranguru. Opponent sends out Corviknight, and this is an absolute nightmare start. Corviknight going to be hit with the Trailblaze. Oranguru can't really do much of anything in this matchup anyway, so it's going to use some energy just to boost up its damage. But whether it goes straight Brutal Swing or whether it ends up going for a Trailblaze first, I mean, this is an XL Corviknight. It is monstrously bulky, and you could not ask for much of a worse start to a game. Oranguru gonna save some energy, pivot out into the Spiritomb. Spiritomb, his payback will do quite a lot of damage. Spiritomb will put up the shield. Corviknight full sends the payback, and Corviknight's just gonna stay on the field. This Rock Tomb from Spiritomb will easily be taking the knockout. Corviknight decides not to shield, and it will get KO'd. Back in comes the Golurk. Golurk did bank quite a bit of energy from earlier. Golurk farms up too much. They do throw on alignment. Spiritomb puts up the shield. They Dynamic Punch. Dynamic Punch actually does do less. In comes Oranguru. Oranguru able to make a last-second Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing forces the shield from the Golurk, but now something's going to get hit with a Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch will do quite a bit of damage onto the Annihilate as Annihilate gets brought in. Golurk Dynamic Punches blindly. That is not even a move that does more damage. Oh my goodness, and with that huge error from the opponent, maybe there's still a chance to win. Rage Fist from the Annihilate is going to connect. The switch and the CMP sack swap onto the Spiritomb. Oh my goodness, Spiritomb winning charge stack priority, applying that debuff to the Skeleturge. Skeleturge is going to be Torch Songing and going for an undercharge. Skeleturge realizes it's too much of an undercharge. It would have been a simultaneous knockout. The Sucker Punches would have taken the KO, so they're forced to throw energy, and that is going to cost them as Annihilate gets the Rage Fist, KOs the Skeleturge, and farms down the Golurk. What an absolute roller coaster of a game. Annihilate into Galarian Moltres in the next match. Moltres definitely not going to be a big fan of this close combat. Close combat will hit for some devastating damage. Looks like it was a CMP tie here. Close combat to the fly. Close combat does connect, but Galarian Moltres too bulky, able to hang on. The shield comes up from the Annihilate. Annihilate going to be safe switching into the Spiritomb. Sucker Punches are resisted, but getting the farm down before the fly is reached. That is a big farm down for Spiritomb. Out comes Obstagoon. Obstagoon is a Pokemon that we really haven't seen in Go Battle League for quite some time, but in this Holiday Cup meta, Obstagoon actually ends up being a surprisingly strong pick. Even though its pacing is absolutely atrocious, its combination of coverage and its defensive typing actually make it a pretty strong contender. Spiritomb farming up massively, trying for a catch onto the Annihilate. Unfortunately, no catches this time, and in comes Skeleturge. Skeleturge will take big damage from the Rage Fist. They put up the shield. Skeleturge will not get a farm down, and they're going to be forced to fire off some energy. They will take the knockout with the Torch Song. There is so much energy loaded on the Spiritomb, and then there's the full health Oranguru in the back. In comes Oranguru. Oranguru farming up, trying to get to the Brutal Swing, but before it can get there, Skeleturge connects with Torch Song. Torch Song is big damage. Oh, Oranguru getting greedy here, going for the Trailblaze, hoping the opponent will shield, but they do not, and that's disastrous. Spiritomb goes for the CMP sack swap in back-to-back games, but it turns out the Spiritomb Skeleturge CMP tie is IV dependent. The opponent has a higher attack Skeleturge. They win charge stack priority, and unfortunately that is a devastating turn of events. But back in comes the Obstagoon. Will Obstagoon get knocked out here? Rock Tomb lands. No, Obstagoon survives on 1 HP, and unfortunately Obstagoon leaves with the Night Slash. If that Skeleturge lost charge stack priority, back-to-back CMP sack swaps in games would have been absolutely unreal, but unfortunately they had the high attack Dirge, and it ended up ending in a loss. We move to the next match. Oh my goodness, what an amazing matchup here. A really bad lead, Annihilate into the Skeleturge, but an Oranguru save switch getting answered by a Shadow Lapras. Oranguru is going to absolutely feast. Oranguru already ramped up with this Trailblaze. Lapras fires off the Sparkling Aria. Oranguru does take some pretty substantial damage. Oranguru puts up the shield as it can't quite make it to Trailblaze number 2. Oranguru, these confusions adding up. Oh my goodness, Oranguru gets that full farm down. Oranguru gonna be met with the Skeleturge. Unfortunately, Oranguru's low enough that it's only gonna be able to get 2 of the moves here. It's not gonna be able to get all 3 of the moves. Oh my goodness, it actually will. I didn't think that it was gonna be able to survive that Incinerate, but it just does. And Oranguru is able to make all 3 brutal swings. Oranguru putting on an absolute clinic, and now in comes Spiritomb. If there's one thing you really don't want to see, it's a shield advantage Spiritomb. Spiritomb absorbs that Torch Song. In the back is a Shadow Ampharos. Shadow Ampharos, a very cool pick, but this can only be a Brutal Swing or a Trailblaze. That's very okay. Opponent ends up going for the Brutal Swing, and unfortunately, they're just going to get CMP tied here, but they actually win charge attack priority. Annihilate does have a pretty high attack stat, but Ampharos' attack stat is sky high as well. Annihilate going to go for an Undercharge here on the Rage Fist. Undercharge will set up the farm down and exiting with the Rage Fist loaded to win the game. Very nice Undercharge there. The Ampharos winning charge attack priority ended up being a bit of a jump scare, but it all ends up working out in the end. We move to the next match. Oh, what a lead. Shadow Annihilate into Licky Licky. Opponent safe switches into Galarian Moltres, and unfortunately, there's not a clear answer to Galarian Moltres on this team. So instead, Annihilate's just going to stay in here, fire off the close combat to deal devastating damage, and bring in the Spiritomb. Spiritomb could potentially look to go for a zero shield farm down here, as Moltres does go for the fly. Spiritomb gets that farm down, exiting with quite a lot of energy, as back in comes the Licky Licky. Getting debuffs applied onto the Licky Licky will genuinely be very, very helpful, as that will increase the survivability of the Annihilate. As part of the reason why Licky Licky is the premier rollout user is Licky Licky has coverage for Annihilate, making it for big super effective damage with Shadow Ball. Rock Tomb lands on the CMP die. Opponent is just so low. Spiritomb putting on an absolute clinic. Shadow Ball lands. In comes Oranguru. Opponent, I don't know what they had in the back, but they immediately resign after they see Oranguru. We've got a very spicy lead in the next match, leading Annihilate into Raikou. Oh, and it's actually a Volt Switch Raikou. I feel like typically the Raikou that I see are on Thundershock just for the incredibly fast pacing, but Volt Switch can make things quite scary as well. Volt Switch is definitely adding up. Annihilate almost at half HP. Annihilate, no shields. That's a Shadow Ball, and down goes Annihilate. In comes Oranguru. Oranguru already having to put up a shield as this Raikou is absolutely terrorizing this battle. That's going to be an Aura Sphere. Raikou gets farmed down, but Raikou put a serious dent onto this team. In comes the Dunsparce, but this is not necessarily a strong answer to Oranguru. This is only a neutral matchup, and that should allow the Oranguru to just ramp up its damage and potentially look to try and run away with this game. Drill Run is going to land. Oranguru continuing a massive overfarm, already at 2 more Trailblazes, looking to ramp up the pressure. Trailblaze is going to land. Dunsparce hangs on. Dunsparce still throwing on good timing, but Oranguru is double boosted. This is absolutely where the final shield should be used. In the back is Aurorus, and Oranguru fires off the Trailblaze. In hindsight, Oranguru may have been better off going for the double Brutal Swing because Oranguru is going to lose charge attack priority to the Aurorus. That forces the Oranguru to pivot out, and suddenly, the path is not so clear, because after Aurorus throws a Weather Ball, it's actually 1 cheaper to get to the Meteor Beam, meaning that Aurorus outpaces the Spiritomb, takes the knockout, and by switching out, Oranguru lost all of its previous Trailblaze boosts. This means even though Trailblaze is super effective, Trailblaze will not take the knockout. Aurorus hangs on by the narrowest of margins, making the last second Weather Ball, KOing Oranguru, and unfortunately that game will end in defeat. We see a familiar lead in the next match, and unfortunately a very negative one, Shadow Annihilate into Shadow Dusknoir. Annihilate farms up a little bit of energy, safe switch into Oranguru. Opponent is going to respond with a Licky Licky. Licky Licky farming up a ton of energy. Oranguru farms up to 100 and goes for the Trailblaze. Oranguru will begin the slow process of ramping up its attack stat. Licky Licky will be forced to go for Body Slams in this matchup unless it's running Hyper Beam. No Hyper Beam to be seen, it's just going to be a regular old Body Slam. And Oranguru, damage is slowly starting to add up. Body Slam is going to land, opponent throws on alignment. Oranguru going to be no shielding, hoping that it can hold on. Oranguru will survive on very low HP. Oh my goodness, Oranguru now at the back-to-back Brutal Swings. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded, able to make a Trailblaze. I swear the Oranguru has had 1 HP for like 4 rollouts now, and the Oranguru just refuses to get KO'd. In comes Annihilate. Annihilate puts up the shield as Licky Licky goes for the Shadow Ball. Back in comes the Dusknoir. Dusknoir unleashing Shadow Punch. The shield comes up, and now in comes Spiritomb. Spiritomb gonna look for a full farm down, and clearly whatever they had in back did not want to see Spiritomb, as they immediately resign the match. great lead in the final match, and oh, what a prediction. Annihilate into Sandslash. But Schmiedy predicted they would switch out instantly, so he just blind save switched the Spiritomb, trusting that no Sandslash would ever stay in that matchup, and now he's not behind in this matchup versus Ampharos. Shadow Ball lands, devastating damage onto the Ampharos. Ampharos leads with a parting gift of a Brutal Swing, but that's not really a problem for the Spiritomb. Spiritomb will exit with a decent amount of energy and a decent amount of health as well. The poor Sandslash is never going to be able to farm down. Sandslash will have to fire off some energy. Oh, Schmiedy getting aggressive. He debuffs the Sandslash, sends in Oranguru, and this way he's able to preserve that Spiritomb for later. Oranguru, oh my goodness, this damage is just so miserable from the Sandslash. Sandslash farming up a ton of energy. Oranguru going for a Trailblaze. Brutal Swing, I believe, would come pretty close to knocking out opponent. No shields, and in the back is Golurk. Things could get a little bit scary here. Golurk is a very strong sweeper. Trailblaze boosting up Oranguru once again. Oranguru will get to the Brutal Swing. Golurk knows it absolutely has to shield everything. There is a little bit of energy on the Annihilate. In comes the Spiritomb. The fast move pressure spooks the opponent, and they will fire off a Shadow Punch. No, they go for a Dynamic Punch. People keep Dynamic Punching Spiritomb. Please do not Dynamic Punch Spiritomb. It is a Ghost Dark type that is single resisted. Shadow Punch takes the KO. In comes Annihilate, but Annihilate gets the counter farm down, and that's gonna do it. In comes the Sandslash. This won't KO. Annihilate with the no shield flex to secure the win. All in all, these were some very fun battles to close out the Ultra Holiday Cup, so many thanks for the battle submission. Ultra League Spiritomb is a Pokemon that I've wanted for a very long time. I think it's an extremely strong pick for this Ultra League meta. In the Great League Holiday Cup, I did know that it had value, but its lack of bulk I felt really held it back, whereas in a lot of scenarios, it really felt like it had to give up a shield very early on if it wanted to generate any kind of return on investment. But in the Ultra League where things are a lot bulkier, I really feel like it can kind of get away with playing a lot of those zeros matchups because tanking a charge stack pre-Rock Tomb is a lot less catastrophic. I do really hope that in future Halloween, Spiritomb will finally be a wild spawn so I can get these XLs, because this Pokemon is very strong. I've seen some people using Spiritomb at very high ELO Ultra Holiday Cup. It's an incredibly effective pick in this meta. Even against the Dark types as a Ghost type, it still can fight back. Like even against the Galarian Moltres, it puts up an extreme fight as it's able to hit back for big damage with Rock Tomb. It's a Ghost type that has very nice play into Licky Licky, so I think it ends up being a really nice neutral presence across the board. And even though, unfortunately, it's one of the rarest Pokemon that you could have for this meta, I do think it's also one of this meta's strongest options. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do consider leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.